In this module, we'll be studying about the pollination. Now students, in the preceding section you have learned that the male and female gametes in flowering plant, they are produced, right, in the pollen grains and embryo sac respectively. Now as both type of gametes are non-motile, so they have to be brought together for fertilization to occur. How this is achieved now? With the help of the process that is shown here. That is pollination. Now what is pollination? It is the transfer of pollen grains shed from the anther to the stigma of a pistil. Right? This is what the pollination is. Now students, there are kinds of pollination. The first one we have is the autogamy. Autogamy is basically the self-pollination only. Right? See, autogamy is a self-pollination only. In this type, pollination is achieved within the same flower. It's an obvious thing. If it is self-pollination, it will occur or it can be achieved only within the same flower, right? So what happens in this case? Transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of same flower, right? This is what the autogamy is. So it mainly happens in bisexual flower, fine? Where the both male and female gamete, they are in within the same flower. Now students, we are having two types of flower. The first one we have is the chasmogamous, and then we have is the clistogamous, right? So chasmogamous flower, they are basically similar to the flowers of other species with exposed anther and stigma. So in this case, the anther and stigma, they are exposed. It means they are open kind of flowers, fine? But talking about clistogamous flower, they do not open at all. And in such flowers, the anther and stigma, they lie close to each other. Fine. Now when anther dies in the flower buds, so pollen grains comes in contact with the stigma to effect pollination. Thus clistogamous flowers are invariably autogamous. Fine, because they do not open at all and there is no chance of pollen grain landing on the stigma. Right, because they do not open. I would like to share I would like to show you a picture of this clistogamous and chasmogamous flower. See, look here students. You can see the red color flower, they are open and they are chasmogamous flower, right? And you can see below they are clistogamous flower which do not open at all. Now students, coming on to the second thing that we are having is cross pollination or xenogamy, right? This is basically the transfer of pollen grain from anther to the stigma of a different plant. Fine. So here transfer is happening of pollen grains, but from where to where? From anther to the stigma of a different plant, right? So this is the only type of pollination which during pollination brings genetically different type of pollen grains to the stigma. Fine. And talking about the last one, that is geitonogamy. Right? Geitonogamy. What is geitonogamy now? Transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of another flower of same plant. Remember this thing. Plant will be same. The only difference here is that it is landing onto another flower. It is not taking place within the flower because it is not bisexual. Fine. So geitonogamy, we can say it refers to transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of another flower of same plant. Right? I hope this thing is clear, students. Now moving on to the next topic, that is agents of pollination, which is very, very important, fine, for the pollination to be processed. Now, plants use two abiotic, that is wind and water, you can see, and one biotic, that is animal agent, to achieve the pollination. Right? Now we'll be studying the pollination, wind pollination first. Fine. So which is very, very common against amongst abiotic pollination. Fine. Now students, wind pollination requires the pollen grains. They should be light and non-sticky. You can see the first and second point. They should be light and non-sticky. Why? So that they can be transported in wind current very easily, right? Second, you can see here, third, they should have well exposed stamen. Why well exposed stamen? Listen to this thing very carefully, students. So that the pollen, they are easily dispersed into wind current. Fine. Now, next you can see here that they have large, often feathery stigma. Why the large, often feathery stigma? So that they can easily trap airborne pollen grains, right? Now students, wind pollinated flowers, they often have a single ovule in each ovary and numerous flowers packed into an inflorescence. And the common example of the wind pollination we can see in case of grasses, right? So all the points, I hope they are clear to you people. Now moving on to the next type of pollination that you can see is the water pollination, right? Very, very important, students. Now, pollination of water, it's quite rare in flowering plants, fine, and it is limited to about 30 genera only, right, students? Now, and especially mostly monocotyledon. So mostly it can be seen only in the monocotyledon. Now students, there are some examples of water pollinated plants, fine. You can see Vallisneria and Hydrilla, which grow in fresh water. Fine, they grow in fresh water. You can see everything is written. It is written in fourth point. Vallisneria, Hydrilla, fresh water forms, and several marine sea grasses such as Zostera. So in these the plants that I'm telling you, they are water pollinated plant, right? So not all the aquatic plant use water for pollination, students. In a majority of aquatic plant, such as we have water hyacinth and water lily, what happens in this plants, that the flowers emerge above the level of water. Fine. So they emerge above the level of water and hence they are pollinated by insects or wind. Fine. But talking about Vallisneria, in Vallisneria what happens? The female flower reach the surface of water by the long stalk. Fine. See. You can see here in this example, right? This is pollination by water in Vallisneria. So what happens? The female flower reach the surface of water with the help of this long stalk, right? And the male flower or pollen grain, they are released onto the surface of water. Fine. Now students, now there are basically in some of the in another group of plant, or we can say in another group of water pollinated plants, such as we have sea grasses. What happens in sea grasses? Listen to this thing very carefully. Female flower remains submerged in water. Fine, it remains submerged in water. We have studied 3 cases. This is the third one now. So it remains submerged in water and the pollen grains, they are released inside the water only. Fine. Now students, pollen grain in many such species, they are long, ribbon-like, and they are carried passively inside the water. Fine. Now some of them reach the stigma and they achieve pollination, right? In most of the water pollinated species, pollen grains, they are protected from wetting. Fine. We have to protect them from wetting. So what happens? They are covered by a mucilaginous covering. Right, there is a covering, mucilaginous covering, and plus very, very important, the pollen grains, they are not colorful in this case. Fine. And they do not produce nectar. So water pollinated flower, they do not produce nectar at all in this case. Students, listen to this thing very carefully. We have read the Vallisneria, Hydrilla, fine, the Zostera, fine, the water hyacinth and water lily. Then what happens in these cases? In water hyacinth, water lily, the flower emerges above the level of water. Fine. And they are pollinated by insect or wind. Now students, coming on to the next type, that is animal pollination. Right? Animal pollination. Now students, majority of insect pollinated flowers, they are large, colorful, fragrant and rich in nectar. So when the flowers are small, a number of flowers are clustered into an inflorescence. Fine. What happens? Now what happens? Why they are doing it? Because the animals, they are attracted to flowers by color or fragrance. Right? Now students, the flowers pollinated by flies and beetles, they secrete foul odors to attract these animals, right? Now, very, very important, students. We want to sustain these animal visit. A flower want to sustain animal visit. So what he has to do? The flower have to provide rewards to the animals. Fine. That reward can be nectar, pollen grains. Fine, students. Now, in some species, floral rewards are in providing safe place to lay eggs. Fine. Now, the most common example is that the tallest flower you can see here in the slide, Amorphophallus, right? Now, students, one last most important point here. Listen to this thing very, very carefully. A similar relationship exists between a species of moth and the plant yucca. Now, what happens in their relationship where both the species, that is the moth and the plant, they cannot complete their life cycle without each other. Remember this thing. What happens then? The moth deposits its egg in the locule of the ovary, and the flower in turn gets pollinated by the moth. Fine. So the larvae of the moth, they comes out of the egg as the seeds start developing. So this is very, very important relationship. Listen to this thing very carefully. Very important. So students, now we have done what is pollination, the kinds of pollinations, the agent of pollination, that is pollination by wind, pollination by water, and pollination by animals. I hope the things are clear to you. Thank you.